Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to share with you how to make some perfect pearls backgrounds. These are really fun and easy to make, and I love doing them, especially on winter cards. So perfect pearls are a pigment powder that have a little shine to them. They come in a lot of different colors. I'm just using some of the kind of neutral tones here today. I've got bronze, copper, gold, and then the pearl color. And these came in a set. Now, to use this, you are going to need a sticky ink. I like to use my Versamarker ink pad. However, there is the perfect medium that is specifically designed to work with these. You can also use any embossing pad you may have. Just a clear sticky ink is what you're going to need. I'm inking up this pine branch stamp. This is from Cracker Box and Susie Stamps, and I have my cardstock off to the left ready to go. I'll be stamping on craft cardstock. I cut this down to 3¼ inches by 4½ inches, I believe is what it is, that I cut this down to. And I'll be using this pine branch to stamp just along the outside edges of this, coming from the outside towards the center to create a little bit of a frame on this rectangle that I have. Again, I'm just going to ink up this stamp and stamp it down. I'm using an acrylic block. I'm not even using my stamp positioner for this. These stamp really, really well, and this clear sticky ink is very well inked right now. It's nice and juicy, so I don't need to use my stamp positioner. I'm just stamping it down once. It's going to be perfect to let the pigment powder stick to it. Whenever you're doing this, though, you do want to make sure that you don't stick your finger accidentally in the ink pad and get it on the paper, or you're not getting any of that ink where you don't want it. Like if you have a little blob or something that gets on there, anywhere this ink is on your cardstock, that powder will stick to it. So just be sure that you're being really careful and just stamping the image that you want down. Something I like to do whenever I'm using the same stamp to stamp all the way across my card like this, to make it look a little bit different, I like to use different pieces of the stamp to stamp in different areas. So I might use the right side, I might use the left side, I might use the top of this, but I'm continually turning that stamp to make sure I get all different areas of it stamped down, so it doesn't look like I'm using the same stamp over and over and over. Now I'm just filling in a few little places where I think it needs a little something extra. So I like to go in and stamp a few larger images and then come back in and just fill in those areas with little tiny stamps like I'm doing here. It's just the tiniest bit of a stamped image that's going on there, but it makes all the difference. Now this ink will stay wet for a while, so don't rush. You have plenty of time. But once you get your stamped images on there, it's time to apply your powder. Now with my set of Perfect Pearls, I got this little brush. It's just a nice, soft brush that you can dip into your powder and then apply that powder right onto the stamped areas. You just want to pat it on there first. Now don't be alarmed, this looks like I am wasting a lot. I promise this can go right back into the container and you won't waste any of it. So I'm going to continue to just dip my brush right into that powder and then just pat it onto the images, kind of in a tapping motion. Now, once I get the ink covered, I'm going to go ahead and start. First, I want to get a little bit of the excess off just because I'm working with a lot here, but you want to use your brush and kind of swirl around in circular motions. That's going to get all those little edges. It's also going to start removing a lot of the excess, and just moving that powder around to make sure all those little areas are covered. Now you'll see that you have a nice coating of Perfect Pearls all over this background. Just keep brushing. It will come off, I promise. As long as you don't spray it with any water, just keep brushing. So I'm going to set it aside and get all this extra powder back into the container. Like I said, you can just dump it right back in. I use a piece of computer paper that I work on, then fold it up and dump it right back in. Super simple. Now, once I've done that, it's time to move on to a clean brush. So I've got this brush from my husband's work stash, actually. He used it to like brush cobwebs and stuff off of wires that he had to rewire. Anyway, I stole it and it works great to brush off perfect pearls. You can use any brush you might have on hand though. Just a nice soft bristled paintbrush will work as well. Now to get these to set, you want to spray them with a little bit of water. I do a couple mists, just very light, and that's it. That's all you have to do to create these backgrounds. Super fun and simple. To finish this card is super simple. I went ahead and stenciled the card base itself with a plaid fringe stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I used some eucalyptus ink for that. Then I used some icing on the cake ink from Catherine Pooler to stamp my sentiment from Cracker Box and Susie Stamps onto a little flag banner. I popped everything up with foam tape onto the card base, and then I added some copper penny nouveau drops just around all those little fir or branches that I stamped to complete the card. I really just love the way this one came together. But the next card I want to show you is a little bit different. I'm going to start off with the same exact technique. I'm going to start with stamping my image right onto a piece of cardstock. This time I'm using 5.5 inches by 2.25 inches. I'm stamping with Versamark ink, and I'm stamping my Cracker Box and Susie stamps just like I did beforehand, twisting, turning, making sure it doesn't look the same each time I stamp it. I should mention too that I really like using the Perfect Pearls on colored cardstock, especially as you can see here. It just gives such a nice look and a sheen to this. I absolutely love it on colored cardstock. You can use it on white cardstock as well though. It works, it's just going to tint your cardstock ever so slightly. Now, once I have those all stamped, I'm going to grab out my Versamarker. This is a marker that has Versamark ink in it, and it's great for any time you stamp an image and maybe you missed a little spot or you want to add a little something extra, but you're doing heat embossing. So you need that clear sticky ink in order for the embossing powder to stick to it. So this is a great little tool to have on hand to fix any mistakes or to add your own little touches like I'm doing here. So what I'm doing is just taking my little marker here and adding little dots in between each one of these branches. And I'm doing all different sizes. I'm doing them in groups of 3, so I'm doing a large, a medium, and a small. Now, again, this is the same ink that is in the stamp pad, but it seems to dry just a little bit quicker. So whenever I come in and I start to add the powder on, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I cover up those first with my powder. So you can see I'm just dipping in my brush right into this pearl powder, and I'll just start moving it around, making sure that all those little images are covered with the powder. This is again super simple and easy to do, and it's going to look like it won't all come off. It's going to look like a hot mess pretty much, but keep brushing, keep moving that powder around. It will all come off. If you need to switch to a different brush to really start to get it off, do that. Switch to a clean brush. It helps so much. And this might create a little bit of a mess. If it does and it bothers you, take it over to the trash can and dust it off there. You can really go to town then. I'm moving back to that dry brush now, that clean brush, and I'm just sweeping away any little bits of extra powder that are on there to really clean it off. This is a nice soft brush, so it works perfectly. Now, once I had that done, it's time to go ahead and set this. So I'm giving it a few spritzes of water, which is going to set that powder and make sure it doesn't move anywhere. I love the addition with the Versamarker. It really opens up a lot of possibilities of how you can add perfect pearls to your projects. You can create your own striped backgrounds like this. It really is a lot of fun to play around with. I wanted to add a little strip of silver cardstock on the side of my panel to kind of offset it a little bit, but I didn't have any on hand, and I'm about 30 minutes away from the closest craft store, so that's kind of a no-go for me. So I needed to find a way to make my own. This is something I've done often, and it really works for me and will save you in a pinch. It is a little messy, but it's super simple. You just take a piece of cardstock, cover it with some adhesive, and dump on your glitter. I like to use a paper adhesive. This is from Amazon that I'm using here. It's nice and thick, so I have a nice piece that I can then attach to my panel off to the right hand side. I burnish my glitter in with my finger to really press it into place, but super simple and easy to make your own glitter cardstock that way. It does shed a little bit, so just be warned, it's not like what you can buy in a store. However, it saves me in a pinch all the time. So to finish this card off, once I had mounted that silver glitter cardstock and then also that panel off to the left-hand side on a card base, I stamped the Here For You sentiment with some Twilight ink to go with the whole gray theme going on here. I absolutely love the way this card turned out. And you can see on both of these cards, I didn't use Christmas sentiments. They're both Christmas cards, but I went ahead and saved them for everyday occasions. So just a little tip, you don't have to make all your Christmas cards Christmas. You can use them for everyday occasion too. That is going to do it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There are going to be links down below that you can check out for all the supplies I used. If you haven't, you can subscribe to my channel off to the left-hand side. Happy crafting, everyone.